All right, it's time for everyone's favorite type of content, Steam chart slop. But seriously, there's been a lot going on in the Bungie sphere the last month. We'll call it a few weeks, really. June 2nd, Marathon got its Season 2. June 9th, Destiny 2 received its final update in Monument of Triumph. And then there was the Bungie news that Bungie's set to lose roughly 400 staff in summer layoffs, it's claimed. That's roughly 50% of the studio from the research and headlines and whatever that I've seen. We've known about this, or at least people familiar with Bungie have known that June is like when the final shares divest from the Sony takeover from the buyout for $3.6 billion back in 2022, something that continues to age worse and worse over time. We can play the blame game of whether Sony is at fault for the demise of Bungie or if it was Bungie themselves. Obviously, we don't really know what goes on behind closed doors, and there's enough blame to go around to both parties. I just kind of wanted to make a video talking about all of it in this one comprehensive video, because I get asked on stream a lot and in my Discord and whatever. So yeah, I just thought I would address it all in one video. I have been streaming Elden Ring and I'm like 60 hours into it, and I've finally carved out a bit of time to talk about this. I'm glad I waited a little bit so that we could see more of a full picture on the Steam charts. Don't worry, I have popularity chart too, or popularity.report. And we'll go over all that too and just talk about kind of the life cycle of Destiny. There's also been recent reports of whether Destiny 2 is profitable or not. We'll talk about that. So first, let's start with Marathon, this joke of a game that, I do partially blame for the demise of Destiny 2 because, people can cope all they want. But when you're pulling people away from your main golden goose to work on other side projects, that just logically has to affect the development of Destiny 2. Let me give you an example. So many people have asked me if I'm coming back to play Destiny 2, potentially make build videos. I want to be clear, it's actually very enticing to me. I know my views would go up. My stream viewerships would go up a lot. Like, there's a lot of reasons for me to come back for Destiny 2, but I do have no plans to do that. So part of the reason I don't want to come back is because, despite this saying 300, I logged in like one time. You can see all my gear is actually at like level 10, essentially. I do have like one piece of 300 gear because I saw you could go pick it up at Zavala, and I still had the game installed at the time. So I thought, why don't I pick it up? Because that would greatly aid in my leveling. I'm sure it's easy to level now, but a big reason I don't want to is because I have none of the meta stuff, which is kind of sad. Like, I remember grinding for this mountaintop, Impulse Amplifier, Vorpal Weapon, and like putting in tons of time, right, in Into the Light and Onslaught. And basically, I know if I were to grind, at least this is the final update. So all of the new gear I get would be relevant, but I do have sentimental attachment to all these things. Destiny for me sort of died after the final shape, as it did for many people. Let's look at popularity report. I don't know why I can't say that. So final shape got about 1.7 million. This is daily active users, so it's not players all online at the same time. It's total unique players that have played any activity on a given day. So some might have played in the morning, some might have played it that night, but basically when Final Shape launched, it was 1.75. That is a difference between like Steam concurrence, because Steam is only one platform, and it's concurrent players. These only show us how many are online at one time. So when Monument of Triumph launched, it had 167,000, and then the next day it had the same amount basically, which is great for like a final update with no really new activity. I guess there was like the Pantheon stuff, but basically just a quality of health update, which the game had needed, or a season of health, which we had asked for as a community for a long time. So that was honestly really, I'll be honest, like, I'm going to say some good stuff about Destiny 2 in this video, because I've always just called a spade, and the reason I got negative about Destiny 2 in the first place was because you could feel the game getting worse, because I played it every day, and you can just feel that. And so I spoke up about it. And I mean, the numbers show I wasn't wrong. Edge of Fate didn't even have 1 million. It looks like 781,000 daily active users. And then Renegades, which I heard was better than Edge of Fate, only had 600,000. So they basically lost the trust with Edge of Fate. But as we know, many people were just done after the final shape. That was their send-off for the game. But Monument of Triumph had like 1 million, 1.06 million, which is great. Honestly, I'm glad to see that many people come back. I'm happy for the devs. They brought back Sparrow Racing League. They made so many good changes. I did read all the patch notes and those things. And like I said, it would be really appealing for me to come back. Like, I would probably still enjoy the game. Having something to grind for is fun. Having a reason to play the dungeons is fun. Having 7 artifacts to build craft from is like a dream to me. Plus having a testing ground now in the game. Like, all that stuff sounds great. But as I was saying when I went off on this little tangent, is Marathon pulled resources away from Destiny 2. It's split their focus. You can't deny that. And then one thing about resources is money. So yeah, whether Destiny 2 is profitable or not, we know that Bungie was losing money. Like, Destiny 2 was making a ton of money, but they were putting money into all these side projects that never paid off to make the company look more appealing to an investor like Sony so that they could get bought up and Pete Parsons and the gang could just take their giant golden parachutes and sail off into the sunset. They don't care about making good games. This is the problem with the gaming industry as a whole right now, is so many executives in decision-making roles don't actually care about the art of video games. They don't play video games. They are businessmen, and they are there to make money. And if you look at Sony and their live service push, the disaster of Concord, all these disasters that have cost them hundreds of millions, probably billions of dollars. Again, we don't know the inside financials, but we know it's not been successful. That is because they're chasing that Fortnite money. And then even Fortnite is Fortnite, and they're saying that they have to raise prices to keep the lights on. But the point I'm making is, yes, it would be very fun to go back and make these build videos, and probably lucrative for me, and I would enjoy it, but that's an opportunity cost. Just like making Marathon was an opportunity cost at the detriment to Destiny 2, me spending hundreds of hours grinding Destiny 2, a game that I have like 8,000 hours of game time in, let alone content time, which is almost the same. Like, people underestimate how long it takes to make content, especially I was making a lot of content that it took dozens and dozens of hours for certain videos, like my subclass school stuff and whatever. So the point is, I have easily over 10,000 hours into this franchise, let alone watching YouTube, reading patch notes. Like, it was my hobby from 2017 to 2024 for 7 years. It's basically what I did. I watched some sports, I worked out, I traveled, but for the most part, in my leisure time, it was Destiny 2. And now I'm playing other games like Elden Ring. I can't play Elden Ring while I'm making Destiny 2 content. And there's certain Elden Ring content I want to make, not guides on, but just videos, commentary pieces, whatever, because that game is amazing. But I can't do that if I'm focusing my time and attention on Destiny 2, as much as I would like to. Don't get me wrong, I think it'd be really fun. But it's just kind of the decision I've made. Will I come back to Destiny 2 ever? Potentially. And like, maybe I get the itch to play it. I really want to try out the new artifact mods, and I want to make like updated dungeon guides in 2027, because the one really appealing thing about Monuments of Triumph is that it's evergreen. Every build video I would make going forward is relevant a year from now. That is a dream. I'm still getting Silksong comments and views to this day because Silksong has not changed since September. Those boss guides that I made were relevant then, and they're relevant now, and they'll be relevant well into the future, because yes, they make some small patch notes, but the boss moveset does not change. And I love that. That's sort of the direction I want to take my channel. So I know I'm talking about myself a lot, but yeah, I just wanted to address that because I am getting those questions, and I do just want to say, like, yes, it's appealing, but at the same time, I also like the nostalgic memories I have about Into the Light, Into Final Shape. I think that was a perfect send-off for me. I don't need Monuments of Triumph to get that, like, one last hurrah. Me and my friends, we had our last hurrah with Final Shape, and it was amazing. But I do want to say, right now, on Friday morning, they are at 114,000 concurrent players on Steam, let alone what that is on consoles and other things. They're still pushing almost like 1 million daily active users. And if we look up here, they've had 72 million people play play Destiny 2. And we can talk about it's free to try versus free to play. Obviously, it's more free to try, but now it's heavily discounted on Steam. You can get into like the whole game for like 30 or 40 Canadian dollars. I don't know what it is in US. But point is, this is a popular franchise, and Sony is basically killing it to chase this live service dream with a game that was essentially dead on arrival. So if we look at it, 88,000 is what it peaked at when this game launched, and it's been a precipitous decline since. And I mean, yes, we can go into, all looter shooters are dead at the end of a season before a wipe, blah, blah, blah. Sure, but popular games are fun and popular to play just because they're fun. These are numbers that are not great, especially for a live service that basically killed this game, which has had really high highs, 316,000, 314,000. This was Lightfall and Final Shape. So they were pushing way bigger numbers. And again, if we just go back to the last, actually, sure, let's look at the last week in Marathon. Peaking at like 14,000, and now their peaks are barely above 10,000. So if we zoom out 1 month, so here June 2nd it launched. From June 2nd to 9th was a free week. Anyone could have played, including me. I could have downloaded it. I had no desire to. By the end of that free week, they're pushing like 25,000 players. So it's just not an appealing game to a wide audience, which is fine. Games like that are allowed to exist, but for Sony to kind of basically purchase Bungie because they sold themselves as these live service maestros that had Marathon in incubation, well, in full development, other projects in incubation, Destiny 2 alive and thriving at the time, because it was like back 2022, so that was like just after Witch Queen. But anyways, Witch Queen did numbers, we all know that, like 290,000, but it was really well received. Their seasons were peaking around 200,000, lows of like 60,000. That ain't bad, right? Lows of 60,000. Marathon would love for their low to be 60,000. But yeah, basically they were acquired with the promise of successful live service games, and they wanted the live service push. So another reason for the Sony acquisition was Bungie's so-called live service expertise, which brings me into my next point. I think they were wrong about that. I made my video of Justin Truman's talk and breaking everything he said in that video down. I'm not going to pull up clips, but one thing he talked about was how when they were developing things, so often what they thought would be popular wasn't, and what they didn't think would be popular was a massive hit, which tells you that they were out of touch with what the community actually liked. And what I love about this update is how popular it has been. Again, if we go to popularity report, it's above Edge of Fate and Renegades. And there's essentially, again, no like, people aren't playing for anything other than the love of the game. There's no day one raid to prep for anymore. It's the final update. They're just playing for the love of the game. Yes, Sparrow Racing League is back. And like I said, there's the new Pantheon, which brought back like Insurrection Prime, which is dope. I wish we could just get Scourge of the Past back, but that's a whole separate topic that I'm probably not even going to dive into. Maybe a little bit. But basically, what I'm saying is there wasn't a ton of new content. It was just a quality of life, season of health type update. And it brought people back in droves because it made the whole game relevant. And we have been saying for how long that, like Destiny 1, the reason it was so good is you would just grind strikes. You would just grind raids, trying to get the god roll you want, trying to get, right? You were just playing for the love of the game, but there was a carrot to chase. Where what they went to was just retention bait after retention bait, and it only got worse. I've made videos talking about that. Aztecross made his monetization video, which escaped the Destiny realm and went to the greater gaming realm, just asking like, Bungie, you good? And turns out they weren't good. They were bleeding money because of these incubation projects. So even though Destiny 2, yeah, it probably was profitable, even though I will say we don't know that, and we have heard it's an extremely expensive game to create, but maybe it could have been a lot less expensive if they had just focused on the core of the game, making more PvP maps, making PvP relevant at all, actually balancing the PvP sandbox. I know there was this whole, we want your Guardian to feel the same in PvE as it does in PvP, but that didn't work after a certain point in the sandbox. I would argue Beyond Light is what killed that. Stasis killed PvP. Real ones, no. I was really into PvP actually in the Forsaken era, and then Shadowkeep brought champions, so I started getting more into PvE. Beyond Light, but I was still playing PvP. Beyond Light, I had fun abusing Stasis, but was it balanced? Absolutely the hell not. I made a one-shot Sturm build. I could one-shot opponents with a Sturm headshot because of one of the Stasis fragments gave you a weapon damage boost. Empowering Rift with Stag. Anyways, it's a sick build, but that is totally unbalanced. To be able to one-shot with a hand cannon? Like, come on. But if they had just continued to put into the core of the game, this is the thing. They had such a strong foundation for Destiny 2, and they rather eroded that foundation by basically neglecting half of the game, which is PvP. And again, I'm not going to get into numbers of half or 60%, 40%. Like, we know the game is a bit more PvE oriented to the casuals, but in these lulls of seasons, it's PvP that keeps it going. Those are just facts. Again, I don't have all the data to back that up, but I've seen the numbers over the years. In those low times, PvP is what keeps you playing. Again, back in the day, I mean, Menagerie was great and all that. And I've always enjoyed playing the whole game, but let's not pretend that PvP didn't become a bastard child, let alone Gambit. But again, they had this solid foundation, but they kind of threw that away for disposable, recyclable seasonal content. So yeah, you had to develop a sundial. And I'm not saying these activities weren't fun, but I'm saying they were made to be disposable. They were made to get rid of after every year. You can't go back and play the Shadowkeep, whatever that Season of Undying, like Vex mission was. You can't play Sundial. You can't play, go back to all those old seasons, the Seraph Towers and all those old things. They are out of the game, never to be seen again. You're making recyclable content. Just like us content creators, we're making build videos and everything with an expiry date. That is something that always bothered me. Don't get me wrong, I loved making it, but it really sucked knowing that it was going to be irrelevant soon. I could show you my YouTube analytics, and like my Silksong videos just go like this. It's just a constant upward graph. That's evergreen. Where Destiny ones, it would be boom and then boom. I had the odd one that still like gets views. A few are actually popping off now with this latest update. My dungeon tier list and my dungeon easiest to hardest solo flawless dungeon guides, or easiest to hardest solo flawless dungeons, not guides. But anyways, for the most part, it's like it peaks in a day or two and then you get no more views. It's completely irrelevant. And that's how they started making their content. And again, they just got more retention baity, and you can see why. Because if we go back to here, they had like almost 3.8 million players at launch for Destiny 2. And then it dropped off, and then Forsaken was over 3 million. And then Shadowkeep, 2.66 million. Still very good numbers. But Shadowkeep's kind of where it ended. Beyond Light, 1.87, so didn't even make 2 million. Witch Queen, which we know was great, even less than Beyond Light at 1.7 million. There was a peak here, just about made 1.8 million. Then Lightfall, almost 1.9 million, so it actually beat Beyond Light. So they were kind of coming back with Lightfall, but we all know that debacle. But then Final Shape, but the point is, Final Shape, we know how great it was, 1.7 million. Less than half of the near 3.8 at Destiny 2 Vanilla. Even though this is probably Into the Light to Final Shape was like the greatest run Destiny 2 probably ever had, in my opinion. Forsaken, don't get me wrong, Forsaken was freaking amazing too. Warmind is actually where I fell in love with the game, and Forsaken like really cemented that to where it became like my full-time hobby. But yeah, the point is the quality only got better since D2 Vanilla, but the numbers just got worse. And as they got worse, Bungie kept all the retention tactics up, and the nickel and diming with the Eververse and just all these things, all these anti-player moves, because they were desperate to basically get more money out of each player because they had a smaller player population to draw from. And we can just see that from the popularity.report numbers. So those are just That's just the reality, right? But in this time, somewhere back in like, I can't remember, was it 2020 Marathon started development, which would have been, what is that, Beyond Light? So yeah, the quality of the game, like I said, PvP kind of got ruined around Beyond Light. Well, that's probably about the time they pulled their best PvP minds at the studio away to make Marathon. So there's a direct correlation with the demise of PvP with the development of Marathon. Again, this is just like my speculation, but it stands to reason, right? Like, I don't know the inner workings of Bungie. I don't have insider information like Paul Tassi, but I'm an expert on the game. I've been there from the start to Final Shape and really to just before Edge of Fate. Like, I dropped off at Heresy. So pretty much the whole lifespan, and I've followed the news to the end. But what I'm saying is PvP getting worse is probably attributed to somewhat to the development of Marathon. And yeah, basically what I'm saying is it's inevitable that those resources being pulled away hurt Destiny 2. And we can argue all day about studios, should they be allowed to make other games? Of course they should, but you also just like can't let half of your video game die just because you want to support some other video game, like, in my opinion, or whatever. Figure it out. But basically what they wanted to do was have their cake and eat it too. They wanted to develop all these other games while still having like their peak popularity, and that's just not feasible. And then we saw with Edge of Fate, they cranked up the retention tactics with their tier 5s and being tied to power level, and I said that was so stupid and I got flamed. And now, from what I hear, tier 5s are actually tied to doing harder activities, which is what I criticized with Edge of Fate and said how it should be. So at least they made things right. And I will credit the devs. All the blog posts that I read with all the exotic catalysts, like I said, it was really tempting for me to come back, because there's just so many good additions and things that I've wished for and the community has wished for. So I just want to genuinely say, like, props to them for making such a great farewell. And on that topic, we have DMG's post talking about basically like their final update, and everyone stop saying last. We know this is the last. Like, you guys, we have to come to terms with that. Like, they're people just think it's just going to keep getting updates indefinitely. When was the last patch update for Destiny 1? Like, the game is static, other than, like, as he says, they'll do like certain things for like server maintenance or whatever they have to do, like little things to keep the game actually functional and able to be played, but they're not going to keep doing like changes to exotics or things like that. This is going to be like the last patch update, and then that is what it is. And then, so if no one's working on Bungie, then it totally on Destiny 2, it totally stands to reason that those people will have to lose their jobs, because it's like there's nothing for them to. And I know, like, it sounds cutthroat, and obviously I wish them the best and I hope they land on their feet. And I do think the devs aren't really the problem. I think it's upper management and all the terrible decisions that have been made, like doing, as I just talked about, making a Marathon and trying to chase this extraction shooter. I don't get this appeal of extraction shooters. They all think it's the next big BR movement. It's not, and it's kind of getting proven. But anyways, it's these decision makers that have kind of ruined Destiny. Like I said, they thought one thing would be popular and it wasn't, because they're out of touch with the player base. I'm convinced that they could have just kept doing these quality of life updates and people would have been much, much happier, because it just makes the entire game fun to play. Where before, I always said it's like a treadmill. Even in like the Final Shape days, when I was loving life, playing the game every day, I would say to my now fiance, at the time girlfriend, I was like, oh, I got to do my Destiny chores with my friends. Like, we have to get on each week, do our 3 raids, get our red borders. They made it so treadmill-like and formulaic, but that was to keep their weekly active user metrics up, so that the company looked like it was thriving. Again, it was all like for financial incentive rather than game incentive, rather for what's the best for the health of the game. The devs knew what was for the best for the health of the game. They have now made tier 5s available to drop in like every piece of content, which I think is great. People are doing fucking public events like it's 2017 when that was the best way to get exotics at the start of Red War and D2 Vanilla. Like, no one cares to run public events, but it's rewarding, so people are going to go do it. And like I said, around Beyond Light, they kind of stopped making PvP feel rewarding. And again, a lot of that was due to the decision makers. They were like, well, what can we do to trick people into playing our game? The best way to get people to play your game is to make a fucking good game. We know that. And Monument of Triumph is really friggin' good, and that's why it's beating Edge of Fate and Renegades. Again, I can get into that topic as well. It doesn't always translate. There are very good video games out there that don't have the numbers they deserve. And then there's shitty games like Call of Duty that have amazing player metrics, even though the game is slop shit. But that's just life sometimes, right? Mr. Beast is the biggest YouTuber. I don't know if his videos are transformative and high art. But anyways, again, a whole different topic for a different day. But the point is to say that these layoffs are the result of bad management, and I feel bad for the devs because the devs were listening. They knew what the players wanted, but it was at odds with what the upper managers wanted because they thought it would negatively affect, retention and weekly active user metrics, when really it probably just would have made people love the game more. Yeah, I've heard Diablo 4 now is in a really good spot because, yeah, people can play it, get their fun, leave while having fun, and then they return for the next big update. And Destiny could have been that. Think if we had a Monument of Triumph every year instead of this seasonal treadmill that just keeps you coming back so that they can sell you microtransactions in the Eververse store, but they can't let you leave. You have to stay on that treadmill. Once I got free, that's another reason I don't really want to go back. It's because I've done everything in the game. I mean, I know I could do Pantheon, which would be even that. I've done Galron. I've done Insurrection Prime. Look at my raid report. I have probably 25 crown clears and over 50 scourge clears for sure. So yeah, I don't need to go back. Again, I had my fun. It was a great run while it lasted, but it's I don't need this Monument of Triumph. But the point is that it was a really good update for the core of the game. And I think if they had stuck to the core of the game, maybe they Beyond Light and could have been reaching Shadowkeep numbers. Again, who's to say? People might have just wanted off that treadmill regardless. But like I said, as the player population plummeted, they doubled and tripled down on those scummy retention-baked tactics, and that just pushed people away more. It's kind of just a negative feedback loop. So anyways, I've rambled long enough. That's why I usually script these things, because I do kind of just talk in circles some of the time. But I just wanted to get all my thoughts out there. I'm happy people are enjoying it genuinely. Like I said, it was tempting for me too, but I am enjoying the hell out of Elden Ring. Come watch me on Twitch at itstizzle7 if you want to see me play it. If you're watching it the day this goes live, I'll probably be playing it. So yeah, anyway, I love it. I've been loving playing all these different roguelites and Souls-likes, and that's kind of where I'm at these days. I'm just loving single player games. Hell, even in Destiny, I would make solo GM guides, solo dungeon guides. I like playing games by myself. I like testing and tinkering. It's been a lot of fun. So yeah, trust me, I had so much fun on that YouTube journey. I love the audience that I cultivated. It'd be fun to come back for them. Like I said, it'd be fun to come back for a lot of reasons. I'm not closing the door entirely. Like I said, maybe after that final patch, I will do some dungeon guides. I don't know. I might. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. And on that topic, neither do we as far as Destiny 3 goes. It would be cool to get a Destiny 3, but who knows? All I know is that this update proved that Destiny is definitely the more popular IP than Marathon, and maybe Sony should consider that and consider what I had to say in this video about how if you actually just focus on the health of the game, maybe your game will be more successful, because look at what happened instead of Star Wars slop. Again, I actually heard Renegades was pretty good, but it was just kind of an obvious attempt at a cash grab as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, I'm a bit cynical about Bungie, but I have every right to be. They destroyed the game. For me, the best era was just before Witch Queen, when we had all the old mod system. and the 2.0 subclasses, or if we could have even had the old mod system with all the 3.0 subclasses. That was kind of the glory days for me. Things got a little too easy in Lightfall, and then Prismatic really broke the game, and now we've got the tier 5s and everything going on. Like I said, the game I loved was back in this era, the middle of the game. But I'm happy for the people that are enjoying this one last hurrah. Again, I'm rambling. I'm just going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching. Peace.